Okay. Since it's 6:30, in the absence of our chairperson, who is out ill, but will be in. So I'll be running the meeting tonight. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Belgrade Select Board first night 2023 to order, and we'll start with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we have 3 select board members here, and I agree both Melanie and Barbara are online, so we will establish that we do have a quorum. I move that we open the meeting.
Second.
Okay, the first part is for public comment. If there's anyone here online that has a comment or something you want to bring to the board's attention that's not on the regular agenda, we do allow a short commentary. Is there anyone that has anything they'd like to bring to our attention tonight? No. Anyone on? I don't see any hands up. So seeing no hands up, I move that we review and approve the minutes of July 18th. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are there any or corrections to those minutes? I didn't have any, but I did.
I had reviewed them and I hadn't seen anything to suggest.
Okay. Dan, Melanie,
Yep, they look good to me.
It looked good to me too.
okay, all right. All in favor of approving the minutes? Here,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes,
Barbara,
Yes.
Carol, yes, the minutes are approved. Melanie, I hope you feel better. You sound awful. I didn't recognize your voice. Hopefully this is short-lived for you.
that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. Okay, so, under unfinished business, I move we open the discussion on the Burgess property.
Second.
Second,
Yeah.
Peter seconded, okay. Lorna, can you?
So, one of the daughters, of the owner reached out to the town and offered the property for sale at a purchase price of $165,000. The board discussed it briefly at a previous meeting and asked to have Dwight Dowdy of Maine DOT present so that, he could be in on the discussion because it is in the water contamination, triangle. Dwight was not available to be with us tonight. They have expressed that Maine DOT is not interested in purchasing the property because we're moving forward with the water system. But both of the girls are here via Zoom with you tonight.
Okay. And I think they reaffirmed that today when Dwight wasn't able to be here, is that correct?
You are correct.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Peter, do you have, or Dan, anyone?
If the state's not interested in purchasing half of it, I don't think we're gonna be interested in purchasing.
Yeah, I would think the same. Do either of the daughters have anything they would like to say? Okay,
No, we're good, thank you.
all set. Yeah, it's one of those now that we're moving ahead with the other design, the state does not have interest. I know they expressed it earlier, but they didn't. So Do we need we don't need a motion on anything at this point?
No, if you're not
Okay.
taking any action.
All right, thank you for letting us know and certainly considering us and giving us first opportunity at, selling the property. But I guess at this point we'll need to pass, but thank you.
Understandable. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, very, very kind, thank you.
So the next order of business, I move we open the order of business about installing a street light at the corner of Manchester Road and Wings Mills.
I'll second that.
Okay, Lorna?
So at your previous meetings, you did review information from the Kennebec County Sheriff's Office and hear from our fire and rescue about this particular area being a problem. There's no street light, and you wanted to find out what the cost was to put something there.
Mhm.
So CMP has a pole there. It's number 70. They just require us to have someone who is qualified and meets their criteria to do it. Corey, our facilities maintenance manager, did reach out to Wiswell Electric, who did lights down in the village. And he is able to put a light there. It looks like his estimate is $690. So that's sort of.
That includes the light.
Yes, we have 3 LED lights left
Oh,
from, from when the village project was done.
Okay,
Are those the same as our other streetlights, though?
I don't know what they
Does it have to
are.
be the same as the ones that are on all the other streetlights?
I think
It
they
just- it
changed
just
the
says-
overhead.
The actual street light head will be provided by the town from spares left over from the street light project.
Okay,
Yeah,
and this will only convert it everything.
So it would be an LED.
so that's the only cost other than the regular little bit that'll come out.
Right,
of our
the
regular
monthly
billing.
charge, correct.
And what did we find out, the gentleman who was here last time that said that the state had grant money? to-
I could not find any grant money to help. It's such a small amount.
And do we have room in a budget somewhere? to
We
do
do,
that?
yes, we do in
We do?
facilities,
Okay.
yes.
And how much is it? A month?
Minimal, it would be minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What-
I don't know
What
what
was it?
minimal is, but minimal is usually $30 or less.
Yeah,
I can't imagine that light would cost $10 a month.
Yeah, it would be
Maybe.
minimal.
There's maybe
Yeah.
a minimum charge.
I mean, all the streetlights in town are less than 1,000, so, or all the carry lights in town are less than 1,000, so.
So I had a question about this particular ask. We talked last time about the couple of problems that existed down there. One was low visibility, perhaps as an issue, and then the second thing was behavioral issues that were seen following the accident, the very tragic accident. I'm not opposed to this at all, so when I'm asking this, it's not like I'm objecting, but I'd like to know what do we think that we'll be solving realistically by having this light in place? My thinking, I'll share with you all, I'm thinking it will be illumination only. I am hesitant to think that it will change behavior in and by itself. That's just my thinking.
I agree with you, Peter. I did reach out to Kennebec County Sheriff's Office and asked them to increase patrol there. And they agreed that they would. So hopefully that will deter some of that
Turn
activity.
some of it. Bruce?
Just for a heads up, you guys, since we spoke about it at the last board meeting, the activity is down there, has gotten probably 10 times worse if not more.
Oh, my goodness, are you really serious?
Yeah, Corey even mentioned it when he was getting the street light, he's like, wow, there's some action here, huh? Yeah, everything,
Because you're seeing evidence of tires.
yeah, and they're doing it down. I don't know where, I know we came up Wings Mills Road, so they're basically doing it at almost every intersection now. Where the pool will be.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Melanie?
mean, oh, go
Melanie
ahead.
has her hand up.
Melanie?
Yeah. Lorna, did you have a chance to reach out to the actual homeowners who were there? I know that the sheriff who originally sent that over said that he was certain that homeowners in the area would welcome that. But did
Yeah.
you ask those homeowners?
I haven't spoken with them directly, no.
Okay.
Yeah, that, before we do it, that is one thing we did mention last time, last meeting, we want to check with the homeowners.
Two of them I can tell you the names, but the other one's a new one. New move and so I don't know what they will.
And the other thing with that, the last time that we asked for the sheriff or the state police to step up patrols was around the transfer station and the surrounding areas when we're having a lot of problems with stuff blowing off vehicles. So we put the request in writing and then they responded in writing so that we had some sort of a backup if that didn't materialize. Did we ask just verbally or was there like an email exchange that we can keep in a file?
We do have an email exchange that we can keep in the file. I contacted the sergeant with the sheriff's office who originally sent the request to us.
Okay. If we-
My thoughts, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, just I guess if we are making that request on behalf of the town of Belgrade, if we were to put that in writing as a request, I think that carries a little bit more weight. And then if we had verification of that, that would be good as well, because if we come at this twofold and we still don't see a reduction, we know that they've stepped up patrols. If this light is installed, that we've taken care of this now. Now, what else could we possibly do?
I think, my sense for this is one, I think the light would help, and it appears as illumination is part of the problem. It will also highlight that intersection for people driving, just other people driving, poor conditions, snow, whatever, rain. My other thought is we may want to look longer ranges. Is there a possibility that maybe we have some kind of a memorial that somewhere else where they could, that would be appropriate for them to gather or remember or some, I don't know. I just think it may take a little more study because we're looking to change behavior and also change them from other issues. So, Barbara?
Yeah, I just was struck when we had this last conversation about the kids who are just sitting in the middle of the road. And at least the illumination will make them visible to drivers. And that to me is a strong argument in terms of being in favor of the light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I hit it right.
Oh, that's
right
what
on-
Bruce-
right on
Bruce-
the nail. So
Bruce
that's
agrees.
what I was gonna say is, I'm in favor of the light because of that.
Yeah.
And I understand everybody else is concerned with the neighbors still, the neighbors need to be asked and, and informed, but yeah, I'm not, I like I said, last meeting, I don't disagree with the light, because of that specific reason.
So, Melanie?
Same here. I agree with the light. I just want to make sure that however we do it, long-term, it's the right way. So we check with the homeowners to make sure that they're okay with it. And if they're not, do we still move forward with the street light? Probably. But I think a courtesy to them is to present the information and then just put the request in writing so that we do have them. So
Okay.
like I said, I don't have a problem with us putting it up. I think it's a good idea. I just want to make sure that we cross the Ts and dot the Is.
Barbara?
But do we present it to them as something that they can weigh in on, or just as a courtesy to let them know that we're doing this for safety reasons?
My sense is we would do it, let them know we're doing it for safety reasons, and if we get a huge pushback, then it could come back to the board for reconsideration. But I think if we vote to put it in for safety reasons and contact the landowners to let them know. And then if we do get a pushback, then we have to reconsider. But I think the sooner the better. And if we have cameras up, or if there are cameras up because of behavioral issues, they certainly would function better with more illumination too.
Okay.
Just want, if you guys are doing it, it'd be nice to have it done way before the anniversary of the accident. That's all I'd like to say.
Barbara,
Yeah, I move that we vote to approve the installation of the light.
okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we install the light at the corner of Manchester Road and Wings Mills Road. Is there any further discussion?
Can we add into that the request in writing for the step up of patrols?
Yes, we can include that. Barbara will amend her motion.
Yeah, I mean, we can, it seems like it's two different issues.
Oh, okay, well,
We've made the request to the town manager, so I don't think I worry about that.
okay, so at this point, we haven't amended the motion is to install the light, and then our discussion can be on the other pieces of that. Okay, all in favor, Peter?
Could I just ask a question
Yeah,
before we vote? So we had talked about contacting the owners
And
to
letting them
notify
know.
them. Yeah. And was that part of the motion?
That wasn't part of the motion,
So
it's
it's
just
just
part of our
minutes in?
procedure,
Okay,
yeah.
great. I just wanted to make sure we're clear.
Mhm.
Okay, that was it.
So do I have a second?
Oh, I don't think I moved anything. I was just asking.
No, Barbara moved it.
Right. Oh, I second that.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
okay, now, all in favor, Peter,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes,
Melanie,
Yes,
Barbara,
Yes,
and I vote yes, so there'll be 5.
and before we go forward with the actual install, I want to hear from the owners.
Yes, that we would enter into our notes to our minutes tonight that we will be contacting landowners to let them know that we're doing it for safety issues. And additionally, that Lorna will have in writing something from the sheriff's department that they'll be stepping up reviews. So that takes care of both Melanie's concern as well. Is that agreed with everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So the next order of business is the property management draft contracts. We have a motion to open that. Or I move we open it. Second from Dan. Okay. Lorna,
So at your last meeting, when you met with Jane from Spectrum Property Management, she agreed to provide draft contracts for you to review. So she did send over 2 of those, and I went through and highlighted the areas that it looks like anything could be changed, or that specific information had been put in. One is for commercial property management agreement, and then the other is the residential rental agreement. And this would only be for 10 Dalton, because 8 Dalton is not ready.
and 10 Dalton is the apartment building, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I always get them confused. Okay, I know there were some changes and I have some others. Do you have changes, or should we just give you what we?
You can go ahead. I did ask her some questions earlier. Let me see.
The first one that came up was, at the top of it, this is for 10 Dalton Lane, which is the apartment. Just to note that down at the bottom of page 1, it says Spectrum Mag is not holding deposit for 8 Dalton, so that should be corrected to 10 Dalton, so.
Excellent.
However, then my next question is, which has not necessarily anything to do with this contract, is who's holding the deposit for 10 Dalton? Is it still Greg Perkins? And if so, we'll need to get that transferred to us to hold, or we would need to get that money transferred to Spectrum to hold. And that's under the assumption that there is a deposit for 10 Dalton. So I think we just need to clean up that piece as we're working through this. So that was my first one there. Does anyone else have anything on the first page?
I did not.
Okay, on the second page, I noticed that if you come down through section B halfway down, the second highlight is, it's going to be rented at market value, and I think that's something we just need to determine. And it says for a minimum term of 12 months, and it was my understanding at the last meeting, we were encouraged not to do a 12-month lease, but to do month to month. So,
That was one of the questions asked of Jane this afternoon. Excuse me. So the term market value is put in place of a dollar amount since there is already a tenant.
right,
And the term 12 months is put in place of a time frame since it's already occupied. If and when the tenant moves out, we will assess market conditions and come up with a suitable market rent. The
Okay.
terms will be changed to month based upon the meeting.
okay, all right.
That was her response to that question.
So the other one I had, it said, the next line, the agent, in the event the agent's unable to rent the premises for the above rental amount, the agent is hereby authorized to lower said rate. It should be by $25 a month, not,
If not, I'm gonna go.
yeah, if not,
Yeah.
instead of to $25 a month, incrementally. And my only question, one, make that correction, and the second was to say, what's incrementally mean? Is that at the end of a month, or how often does that drop, or? So just for clarification there.
I had a question on $100.
Oh, the $100 up top.
Spending any money in town money.
The agent does not spend more than 10 for any sale without the owner's written consent. That would mean that if there was a quick fix and we couldn't get a hold of Corey, I mean, I look at that if they say, gee, we need to buy a plunger, I don't know, something that the agency can do something minor. We'll leave it at no, they're not, do nothing.
It's town, I mean, if you're not from the town, they're not authorized to spend money.
Okay. Then-
We've got a town plumber, we've got a town electrician that we
Yeah.
contract with, they need to let us
Yeah,
know.
facilities. is 24/7.
Okay, so then we should, if everyone's in agree, feeling the same way.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
we would, that they do not do anything there. Barbara, I see your hand up. I'm
Yeah, I
not,
was just gonna say we could probably scratch number 4.
yeah, okay.
I was
Or
gonna say,
maybe we don't scratch it, we specify it that anything will be done at our expense, and we're not authorizing the owner to do any, so there's no misunderstanding. Okay. I didn't have anything on page 3. Did anyone else?
Nope.
Okay. On page 4. And I had nothing on page 4. Anyone else have? Okay, on page 5. I had a question on, so it sounds, what sounds to me is that when we get to this point, instead of a 10% of the rent, which is what we're paying now, we'll pay a management fee of $110 a month. And then if we get a new tenant, they'll get 1 month's rent for finding the tenant and putting them in. But if they extend it, that they will be paid $125 for their efforts to extend the lease or negotiate or make sure the person wants to, or for that part of the conversation. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, well, we're talking about doing a month-to-month lease, so every month they go in, you're extending the lease, so.
Well, I think they're talking about our current tenant. Right, at renewal or extension of fees. So if we're going month to month, I agree. Was my question. Why are we doing that? Does anyone else have a question on that?
That's a good question. The highlighted part on that page at the bottom, so item C, the
Yeah.
last sentence says, this paragraph does not apply to month renewals or
Or month to month extensions, okay. So that I think we could delete. I don't know,
Well, it doesn't apply. C doesn't apply.
doesn't apply, yeah. So if it doesn't apply to us, we could take it out. Maybe,
Seemingly. It's a good question.
yeah. Okay, anything else on page 5? Okay, and page 6? I had nothing on page 6. Dan or Melanie or Barbara?
No.
Okay, page 7?
Nope.
No, okay. And then, the only thing I had on page 8 is notices to the owner should be sent to, I would say, the town manager at our address here.
Yeah.
That what everyone else is in agreement on?
Yes.
Okay. So, I don't think we need to vote on it. I just think we need to, have her alter that contract and then come back to us and we'll.
One other thing I didn't notice in there, they were talking to us about having whoever rents pay into a fund to cover fuel or whatever in excess of a certain amount of dollars, and I didn't remember seeing,
I think that's in the actual rental agreement. This is our contract between,
all right.
Between them and
yeah,
us.
who holds that money, because everything else in here is talking about who holds monies. And it doesn't
I'd
have
have to-
it, so we may have to find
we
out.
may have to come back, yeah, I didn't pick up on that, so. Okay, so then looking at the rental agreement, I had some questions on that.
That is in the next.
So my first one was under clause 2. It says the rental of premises includes heat and hot water, trash. I don't think we do trash,
They do their own,
so we need to remove trash from that.
yeah.
And then water and sewer, I would change sewer to septic. I mean, we don't have sewer, so we shouldn't have sewer in there.
Works.
So
And
that's,
water is not full either, right? We don't. have-
well, we provide the well for the water.
I believe, I think you guys provide electricity too.
This one, yes, does provide, as we go on, does provide
Okay.
electricity.
Okay, I just heard that.
And well, you're right, it needs to say electricity in there. Hmm?
Yeah, I should say it.
Okay, should spell out the addition of electricity. Melanie?
So also on that same page, it looks like for 10 Dalton, she's looking to charge him the rent that she quoted us the house would rent for, not the apartment.
Right,
And that's paying $950 right now.
Right,
And
that's
Right.
incorrect.
Right.
yeah. Actually, you
So
know what?
that needs to come up.
Okay, the way this is set up, when you get over on page 2, electricity is on page 2 is billed to the tenant. So if we're going to have it be included, then we would come back and make that be an owner. But what did we decide to do when we had a problem on 8 Dalton?
We were paying the electric bill.
But did we put a cap or something on it because the one tenant had such high electricity bills?
Right, we never got around to it, so when they ended up moving out, so.
Melanie?
We did, well, remember we did at one point, we told them that anything over $250 was their responsibility.
Right,
Did it $250 because I don't know if it was,
That was when they were moving out and we never really did anything through the rental company.
right.
okay, so are we in agreement that we're going to provide the electricity?
Well, on page 2, it says the tenant does that. So, and what we got into with a pickle before, of course, was the astronomical cost of the electricity. So maybe we need to word it that the owner will provide electricity up to a set dollar amount per month, and anything over that is the tenant's responsibility.
Bruce?
That all, except 10 Dalton, because 10 Dalton has, town stuff on that.
They have what?
Has town equipment on that meter.
The base.
Pumps, the pumps on at 10 Dalton, the water pump is on there, the sewer pumps on there.
Right.
So the garage is on 10 Dalton, so 10 Dalton, you can't do the limit, because if there's a problem with a broken water line, problem with
Okay.
spikes, you can't hold 10 Dalton accountable for a spike in the power. And, you know,
Okay.
especially if there's a, you know what I'm saying, if
Right,
there's something, or somebody leaves lights on, or.
What we'll have to do is figure out
what the cost,
what their cost is with an escalation clause in there, because if the power goes up, we divide it between everything. And
right,
they may have to pay an additional portion. The same thing, you don't wanna lock in fuel at a certain gallons, because what happens if it spikes again, you know?
right.
It's just,
All right, so then what we
We have
need
to
to
think
do is
about
add
escalation.
electricity on page 1 and make it the owner's responsibility on page 2. Is that the agreement?
Hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
well, we're gonna have to come up with some kind of.
we'll have to come up with something, yeah, but, okay, was there anything else on page 1? I know the rent, was there, anything else? Okay, on page 2, the other thing I picked up on is they have water, is not the owner's responsibility, it's the tenant's via well. And I think it should be the owner's responsibility via well. And the sewerage should be the owner's responsibility via septic. Just needs to slide those over so that we clarify what we're doing there.
Yeah,
and then
what's
get rid of
funny is
trash.
The water's already checked off, it's checked off on both sides.
Yeah. And then the trash removal, we want to make the tenant's responsibility. And am I correct? We plow the driveway, they do the rest.
We plow and sand, I would.
Okay. Right, anything else on page 1, page 2?
Probably the walkway should be listed as their responsibility.
They are on page 2.
Okay.
You're right, you're exactly right.
So on page 2. We'll also need to change. Down in clause 10, 2/3 of the way down, number 8. It says the tenant's responsible for all large items that will not fit in a trash can. So. The tenant is responsible for removal of all. I mean, this is thinking we're doing trash, and if they have bicycles or mattresses, they're responsible for it. So we either remove that, or we clarify the tenant is responsible. For all trash removal. I don't know, we've already said it before, I don't know that we need to add it in there. But that was the only thing that I saw.
Unless it's something that's owned by the town, like a refrigerator that goes in that property, that would not be the tenant's responsibility to remove that item. That would be the town's.
But if they
Yeah.
don't own it, they wouldn't be removing it, would they?
Wouldn't be removing it. True, that's right, it would be our removal.
Okay.
Okay,
So do you think 8 just goes away?
I think 8 goes away, or if this is so boilerplate for them. That you just say reiterating the tenant's responsible removal of all items of all trash and larger items. It's a question, I think part of that's their boilerplate piece, and I don't know how easily they can change that. And then I didn't have anything on the next page. And then the next page I found something on was the one that starts at the top. Property is a non-smoking campus.
Yes.
So coming down under parking, it says tenant has blank spaces in the driveway for parking. And And then it goes on to say this does not have assigned parking. But it says tenants, guests or invitees may not park in the driveway or parking areas. Blah, 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 which it sounds like this is something that's being used in an apartment building. And that's not the case here. So if their tenant can't park in the driveway or parking area, they're gonna have to park on Center for All Seasons. I mean, so I think we need to remove that piece. Barbara?
Yeah,
Melanie?
Yeah, sorry, I agree. I think that's just their boilerplate and you know, I mean, I don't know that we need to have anything specifically in there, but that's
I
something.
think if we're renting to one person, we should say there's no more than 2 cars. If we're parking, renting to, you know, this gentleman, that's currently there is himself and his daughter, we should allow for 2 cars. But we shouldn't.
Well, I mean, if they have friends over or, you know, I don't think we want to get too specific, but that's something maybe Lorna could talk to Jane about and just see how to work that out. Since it's not, since it's not a multifamily situation.
Do you think,
Melanie?
yeah, do you think if we just removed the second half of that and simply limited it to tenant has 2 parking spaces and driveway for parking, the residence does not have assigned parking spaces or something like that? And then the rest of that, we could just parking on the lawn, sidewalk or walkway, we could still keep that in because we don't want them parking a lot of stuff on the lawn.
Right, yeah.
But I
That's a good
think if we eliminated that part in the middle about the grounds and parking area and tenants guests, if we just got rid of that blurb.
Okay, good idea.
Yeah. Good point. Okay, and then on the next to last page that starts clause 22 at the top. So the first one is the heating tenants required to pay $1,000 oil deposit against the tenant vacating. So we may want to look to do that for future tenants, but we have a tenant in there. And by and large, once he knew we wanted it cleaned up, he's cleaned up and rented a unit. So if we want to do this, we might say is required to pay an extra $50 a month for the next 12 months to build up that fund. Because he may not be in a position to come up with $1,000 for that deposit. So somehow work out a way that we could have some money against him leaving and not filling the tank, but not make it. But if we're paying the heat,
Well,
Why do we worry about that?
originally, the money that they were talking about was to cover anything excess on a limit. We were gonna come up with a limit on
on
how
the
much he
oil,
would pay.
but if we're not limiting him in any way and we're providing heat, we don't really need that clause, right? Melanie?
I'm kind of looking at it both ways because we did talk about setting a limit on the amount of oil that we would provide. And Bruce, correct me, is it an electric hot water heater that 10 Dalton has, correct, but not, they have oil heat, baseboard hot water?
At 10 Dalton, they have hot air, oil, and electric, hot water heater, but the hot air also heats the town part of the mechanical room.
Okay.
So you gotta, 10 Dalton is kind of a,
Kind of an end unto itself.
Well,
yeah,
I think we can turn around. We should be able to look and see how many gallons $10 was last year. The guy was there all winter.
he's been here for 2 years.
So
Yeah.
we have to look at both of them and average the 2 of them.
Yeah,
And that's the limit that's part of his rent.
right, and we
Because the
can,
garage is, again, bringing the heat up and down the garage.
right.
Right.
That's constant. So if he brings the heat up and leaves it up, it's gonna use more.
So we look at it, maybe we put like a 10% fluff in there or something. Because if one winter was much colder than the other, we're
Well,
averaging it.
that's just it, and then
But we can
you
get the
should
gallons.
still be able, but for those two, especially those two, since he's been at 2 years.
Yeah.
You should be able to average out what he's
Yeah,
using. And then come up with a
Okay.
number. I don't think we necessarily have to have $1,000.
no, I agree.
You know, $250 or something to cover
Yeah.
a tank or something that comes up.
Why don't you work with Jane and see how to rework that? So, she did adjust this, the statement, the next to the last paragraph. The tenants aware they're sited on the shores of Great Pond and to use extreme caution when utilizing the area near around the water. They further agree, acknowledges the waterfront and Great Pond is a use at own risk. And they hold and indemnify us, hold us harmless. I would like to say no dock or float may be installed. That we're clear that they're using the waterfront, but we don't want a dock put in,
It's a town only.
right? And then the next one, it says they may use the waterfront and community center to launch a kayak or canoe, but they may not moor a kayak. So that takes care of that part.
Except that last line, we need to add to that, only non-motorized watercraft are allowed. That needs to be changed, as only non-motorized. Motorized watercraft can be launched or left, you know, at the waterfront. So they bring a kayak in and they store it down with the other kayaks.
Right.
But I mean, that's basically telling somebody they can't have a motorboat.
They can have a motorboat, they just can't dock it at our dock.
Right, but really, what it says right there is you can't have a motorboat.
Are allowed on town property is what you want to add. Are
Well,
allowed
it
on
just
town
can't be
property.
launched or moored.
Or
at-
on town property.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And just the biggest thing is if you're gonna specify that town dock, town float, you gotta make sure that the town float gets installed.
no, we're saying they cannot put in a
Okay, but
dock or a
it
float.
doesn't say that that the town has one or whatever.
It says nothing about the town having a float,
Okay, 'cause the
It
town,
talks about them having a
all
dock.
right, the town one is gonna install, we did training there for 3 weeks ago, so.
So the other thing I would like to see, which we talked about, is specifically excluding trampolines of the project property.
Yeah, you brought that up.
I did, I
I
think.
thought they said they had that there. right?
I didn't see it, but maybe I skimmed too fast, but it's probably
I
under
didn't-
clause.
I didn't know. But I
10.
remember him saying they.
Um,
I wonder if what is implied on the next page says, it talks about tenant agrees to indemnify and hold harmless the owner. It talks about a number of things, including resulting from or arising out of bodily injury, blah, blah, blah. It does not specify injuries as a result of a trampoline, but I wonder if that's meant to be an umbrella type clause.
I think that's an umbrella but I would like, only because I've seen too many trampoline accidents, that we specifically exclude it. And then it may be, I just was reading, it wasn't reading closely enough. I'd like to
Yeah.
see some. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry, Melanie.
It is in there. It's under clause number 11. And item number C, repairs and alterations by tenant. This includes installation of an antenna or dish on the building, swing sets, swimming pools, fire pits, trampoline or guard.
Okay, all right,
So
I
it
did,
is there.
it is there, okay. And then the other one was, I would like to see us require they have a renter's policy and this town be listed as an additional insured. So that means they have at least 100,000 liability if something happens to a guest and the guest wants to sue the town. They have a renter's policy, it's covered. And I think it's not, renter's policy will probably cost them $100, not a big deal.
Oh, it costs them another $100 to be named as additional insurance.
No, not on a home, not on the renters.
You know, most insurance companies to do it, I don't care. And to have any-
Commercial does, but, well, I don't know.
I don't know.
We don't, I guess I shouldn't say that, but. We can check and make sure. I'm concerned about you know, it's the guest in the property that sues the landowner, the owner doesn't have a policy. The only way you know they keep that policy is enforced is if you're notified the policy cancels. The only way to be notified is if you're an additional insured. Oh, Barbara? Oh, Melanie, I'm sorry.
Oh. No, I'm sorry, that was an accident.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
You were right over Barbara. That's why I thought it was Barbara's hand. Bruce?
And on the renters insurance, where we had that big cold snap last winter and people had tenants that had windows and stuff open. So insurance companies refused to pay if they didn't have renters insurance and had, because of you know, broken pipes and stuff because of the open windows. So the insurance companies got real technical on that, so
Oh.
they held their tenants responsible for leaving a window.
Oh, because they opened the window. Yeah,
Causing the damages, so most landlords now is requiring what you just said.
yeah.
Thing is, there's also a clause in here that says you can't open windows in the winter.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
But what if you do? Yeah.
You get out.
So those, that, you know, that's what I came up with. It looks like we need to, you know, have some revisions done and then come back and hopefully will be something we can act on quickly. Any other discussion on this?
No.
Thoughts?
Nope, I think you got them all.
Okay, well, move along here then. The next thing under new business, appointments and resignations. We do have a resignation from Caitlin Thibodeau. Just reading into the record, please accept my formal resignation from the Board of Parks and Recreation. Although I appreciate the opportunity to serve my community, as a young mother, my priorities are with my family. Given there is a known interest from other community members who have not only more time, but the ability to bring fresh ideas and ambitions to the table, it would be best to open the seat to one of them. I thank you and the rest of the board members for this opportunity and experience. So I move that we accept her resignation with regret and send a letter of thanks for her participation.
I second that.
Any discussion?
You mean certificate of appreciation?
Yeah.
You mean certificate of appreciation like we normally?
Oh, yeah, we can do a certificate of appreciation. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, all in favor? Peter?
yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes,
Barbara?
Yes,
And I say yes too, so that's 5. Okay. All right, and so now I move we open cybersecurity protocols.
Give me a second.
So we have with us tonight John Perkins to talk with us about cybersecurity. Sorry, we made you sit through all the beginning of that.
That's okay. I caught up on my emails. It was like a bonus, a couple hours at work. Without anybody bothering.
No one bothered me, I could just keep
That's
working away.
And we won't be as hard on you as the voice of me.
Oh, no. So you'll have to enlighten me. I have no buildup other than we were working on a laptop for the town manager. And then Peter asked a couple of questions. The next thing I knew, I had an invite. So I'm open to answer any questions. I can go free form and tell you what you have. But
Well, I know Melanie originally had some questions. so I
Melanie,
don't know if she-
uh-huh. Melanie.
yeah, so John, this has been a concern of mine really since during COVID, and a lot of folks are working remotely from home. Because when I had spoken to the town attorney and our auditor about it, neither one thought it was a great idea. They said essentially if Belgrade didn't have a reason to open the door to remote work, there was no reason to do so, because once the door was open, it can't be closed. So the door's open now. So I guess what I need is to be sure that 10 years down the road, we don't have a major breach of the town of Belgrade's information that we could have prevented by not opening this door.
Okay, that's good. That's a good trampoline to start from. If I talk too fast, just let me know, because I talk this all the time. So, and if you hear a buzzword or something you want me to stop and explain what that is, just tell me. Because I have no idea what everybody's experience, because everybody gets this on the radio and TV, but it has different connotations for different folks. So first of all, I appreciate the concern, Melanie. I think you're down the right category. Second of all, this is one thing that our clients miss a lot, is that we're just as concerned for breaches and that kind of thing as our clients are. Because what we spend a lot of our time doing is impressing upon our clients how serious it is, both with loss of information and loss of reputation, those kinds of things. So to have you concerned about it is a good thing, because that means we're walking step in step. So we roll out, we're always changing our baseline. I hate to say it, but of course, technology moves very quickly. We're constantly vetting new products and that kind of thing. It's not to sell them, it's to cover different holes that are opened by the bad guy. So I guess I see what the attorney's saying when he says, he or she says, open, once you open that door, you'll never close it. It does increase the risk, coming in from outside the network, it does increase the risk, because you have a couple concerns. You have between wherever the person's using a computer and your network, so that's one risk increase. And then you have the piece of equipment that they're using to come over that distance into the network. So I think when we got the request for the town manager to have a remote computer, we actually donated a computer that we had that was used, still viable, but would be real handy for, not for doing multiple spreadsheets, but certainly for remoting in and working on emails and light duty work like that. So that's why we set that up. So the reason that we were so focused on setting up a PC that we knew was protected by our different pieces of software is because a lot of folks think you can go home and work on a PC, a personal PC, and if you have VPN, virtual private network, that you're good to come in. All a virtual private network is a secure tunnel between the PC and your network. It does not guarantee that the PC you're using to come in isn't already infected. So that's why we want to make sure that the endpoint is protected. So nobody should be coming into the network, Belgrade's network, from home with a non-town laptop. We have made exceptions, but we always force our clients to put our same protection we use inside the business in that personal PC. And if they refuse, people can refuse, it's their PC, then they don't come in, end of story. Or they take home a laptop that belongs to the business. And that's, go ahead.
But we could get more off that. Should any laptop that hooks to this system be not used for anything else other than coming into the system? So they're not taking that same laptop and surfing the web and doing other stuff with it.
No, you can.
Okay.
You can, because there's no guarantee. I once was jokingly, well, he was challenging me. A potential client said, he thought he was calling my bluff. He said, can you guarantee that we won't get a breach? I said, yes. Nobody had ever said yes to it. Really? How's that? And I said, two conditions. We lock everybody here outside the building. And the other condition is I cut every blue wire. He said, well, that's preposterous. I said, so is your question. Because it all comes down to people. It all comes down to people, because we can put as many software pieces in there and hardware pieces, but if someone clicks on something and invites in the bad guy, then they're there. So some of the software that we use from a cybersecurity perspective is in Belgrade, in all of our clients, we use something called Sophos Intercept X. It's an advanced tool that sits in every single endpoint, including those that can be remote. And it watches for bad behavior by the computer, not necessarily by the person, because it has AI working as well. So it's watching to see if any services in the computer start misbehaving and mimicking a breach, because breaches have certain behavior. They start taking over files and that kind of thing. So this particular product, Sophos, will stop that service. It will quarantine the computer, and it will alert us to the fact that something's wrong with that computer. And it leaves a trapdoor open for us. But in cybersecurity, you do it in layers. So recently, you guys approved a new firewall. That's one layer. That's your drawbridge to your castle. And it has software on it that watches all kinds of frontal attacks. You do dark web monitoring. So you're constantly watching. A lot of folks at work will have a username and password. They'll go home and they'll log into LinkedIn or Walmart.com or whatever. And they will, by habit, because humans are pretty basic, they will use their work email and their work passwords to log into LinkedIn. And then the next thing you know, LinkedIn gets breached for 2 million names and credentials. So we watch, kind of like watching the rear view, make sure the cop hasn't turned on you. So you're watching the
Yeah,
rear.
how would you know about that?
How would I know about that? So you watch the rear view to make sure no credentials from the town, specifically anybody with an @townofbelgrade.com or .org or whatever your email domain is. And that's part of our system is you'll get an outreach by one of my guys to say, Dan, we just received a message from Dark Web ID. You have credentials for sale on the dark web. Please go through and change your passwords today, and that will thwart, all usefulness of those credentials. So it's this layered system, firewall, Intercept X on the endpoints, multi-factor, which the town is using. So all of those things, multi-factor is the single most effective tool to shut down illegal use of your accounts. And it's the cheapest tool. We actually rolled it out for free to our clients because it's more of a process to get it going. Microsoft offers it, and we switched you guys to Microsoft the first year we had the town of Belgrade. But all of those things help to thwart this cybersecurity. It's not if, it's when. So then we try to set it up so that the when is as far out as we can make it. We can't control human behavior, but I have a great example. We have another town that we do all of the same services for, and their clerk was breached, clicked on something, and it wasn't the town something. It was in the town office, but she clicked on something on the World Wide Web. And it was a payload, it came in, and we noticed it within 9 or 10 minutes, which is really fast. And then I'm not bragging about our guys, but something set off the alarms pretty quick. And they said, something's going on at the town of fill in the blank, and it's not good. So I started, keep me posted. They came back in 20 minutes later and they said, they have a crypto that has just seized their entire server, including Trio, the whole 9 yards. And I said, okay, how long until we stop it and you're able to get them back up? They said probably 2 or 3 hours, just because we had to recover their entire server backup that we did the night before. It was 43 minutes because they had local backup and cloud backup. So that was a really good success story. They don't all go like that.
Right.
But that's why. So to Melanie's question specifically, we have every interest, as much or more than you do, to make sure that we're constantly looking at those types of things and looking for lapses. So whether it's a year from now or 10 years from now, Melanie, there's no guarantees that you're not going to get breached. All you can guarantee is that you've got someone watching the controls and implementing these things as they change. And you'll hear from us time to time about changes in certain tools that we use. Like we decided to change antivirus 2 years ago. It took us 2 years to get everybody in our client list to change. And it was because the antivirus we were using was not as robust as the Sophos endpoint antivirus that we loved to use. So at our own cost, we ended up converting everybody early. And it's those types of changes that you have to make sure. So I brought some reporting and I can send that to Lorna. That's what we should be doing, is just kind of alerting you. There's nothing exciting. It's kind of boring. You got to make sure that whoever's doing your stuff is patching and updating, that you have robust antivirus and endpoint protection. You got to make sure that MFA is on, everyone here is behaving. And then actually, this is a great exercise to highlight, that if you have an exception to your normal operating tempo, that you pause, slow down. Although this is a pain to have me come in and talk about this stuff, it's the right thing to do. So if there's an exception, slow down long enough not to just pencil whip it and say, yeah, that sounds good, because then in 10 years you'll have 10 exceptions and you won't remember which one's for what. But pause, make sure that we're all aware of what the heck we are doing, and that it doesn't cause too much risk versus reward. So that's my long answer. Yes, David.
So John, thanks for that very thorough description. I don't know the number of endpoints that the town of Belgrade has. I'm very interested in knowing what our land is like. Could you just tell me what we're talking about? Because I know we have devices in here, including the device that Lorna's using there to help drive this particular meeting and so on, which I'd like to talk to you about that device afterwards.
Yeah.
So if you could just help describe that a little bit, and then I have another question.
Sure.
after that.
So currently, we have you, and we try to audit these monthly, because every business is alive. It bounces up 2, subtracts 3, you know what I mean? There's always a flow level, so we try to audit them constantly. So right now, you're showing 13 endpoints. So that means we have 13 Intercept X, advanced with XDR. We do something called Cisco Umbrella DNS. So that's kind of like, instead of putting you on the Autobahn and going any speed you want, you're kind of on a patrolled highway. So that is basically, whether you know it or not, if you click on a website that has known bad traffic, you'll actually get it. You may have seen it, but you wouldn't know what it is because it's not immediate understanding. You'll get a page that pops up that says page not available. And if you click on it again, it'll say page not available. It's because you're being policed back inside the safety wire. So, so those 13 endpoints, you have.
John,
Yep.
if I can stop you, endpoints are people that have
Computers.
computers.
Yep.
To get in.
Yeah, the reason I'm using an ambiguous term is, it doesn't matter to us if it's a desktop, laptop,
Okay.
basically a usable endpoint.
Okay.
Yeah, one firewall, 2 switches, 2 wireless access points. You have the 1 server in the back room there. And let's see, you have 25 people who are supposed to be taking their Breach Secure Now fish threat training. I'm gonna talk to Lauren tomorrow about how many people are and are not taking the training, because it's not very robust. And the town needs to crack the whip a little bit to make sure that everybody's participating in that. And that's basically addressing what we call the human firewall.
Right.
Yeah, and that's making everybody participate in this drip training. It's 5 minutes. It's watch a little video and take a 3-question test. And it just heightens everybody's awareness every time they take them. So, and that's where they attack. You know what I mean? The average bad guy is not going after your state-of-the-art firewall. They're going after you because you're busy and
Right.
you're not gonna take the time to notice that Dan's email that says, can you pick up an Apple gift card for $1,000? Probably isn't something Dan would send you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Knowing that it has to be approved, but you're so busy, distracted, that's what they count on.
Yeah.
Is that type of stuff.
Well, that's why I got the weird email that. But it was from her. that was-
I got whacked the other day. I'm as busy as anybody and I got a DocuSign. I get DocuSign all the time because I have a finance person who's constantly signing me up, whatever the state
Yeah.
puts up for a hoop they want me to jump through as a business. And I get a DocuSign, I click on it, I'm distracted. Next thing I know, I'm logging into Microsoft Office 365. I actually put my credentials in, I hit click and I stop. I'm like, what the heck am I doing? I literally just logged in from a link from an email. That's a huge no-no.
Right.
So I texted one of my guys and said, change my password ASAP, because I was not at the office.
Yeah.
And he changed my password within 30 seconds. I had somebody try to get into my email because I got an MFA request. They didn't get in because I have MFA, but, you know, so
Wow.
just an example of how fast it is and how easy it is to get distracted. I'm in the business and I click. So, let's see here, Office 365, we have 15 accounts. And then we have backup running. That's all part of recovering, you know, if you do get a breach and something bad happens. And that's about it. So that's kind of the size of the network. It's not a huge network. It's not, you know, entirely sophisticated. There's one more level up that the town could go with safety and security with that's sold by Sophos, and it's a live security operations center, live SOC. It adds an increase per endpoint and per server. It's not a ton, but what that is that's, I feel like that's where the business is going. Now you're seeing, I saw it this week, I actually was getting new insurance coverage for me and the business. And they asked if I had Sophos MDR, which is, you know, the actual live SOC watching at my network. And they discounted the insurance because of the MDR presence. So it's almost like a sprinkler system for a building. You may have to buy a new carpet, but you'll never have to rebuild the whole building. Because something live is watching it and mitigating breach. So,
Great.
does that help?
Yes, it does help. In terms of, human behavior, from people operating endpoints, sometimes preventing you, navigation to unwanted sites could be implemented. Is that something we've discussed yet?
You already have. That's what this umbrella is. It's called MTG NetGuard, but you already have it. If somebody tries to click on something that's
So we've,
outside the bounds, they won't get there.
okay,
Yeah.
and so we've identified that and we're using that.
Yeah, it's always a bit of a cultured setting, like we install it with kind of a normal setting. And then it takes about 2 or 3 months and we went through a little bit of this with Nicholas back in the day. Hey, town manager's trying to get some research done on gun ownership. We couldn't click on anything with guns because it was filtered.
Right.
So we had to open it up a little bit,
Right.
you know, I mean, for those types of things.
Okay, I'm glad to know that that's in place. It's
Yep.
going well. Then patching endpoints, getting things up to date.
Yep.
Do we have a schedule?
It's weekly. And we don't do 100% patching just because we try to do an educated approach. If you patch 100% of the time when it comes out, it's often the bleeding edge.
Mhm.
So the guys watch the patching schedules, and if anything is causing trouble, they'll hold back on one patch and do the rest. But generally, we shoot for between 92 and 98% patch compliance. So, but that's a report that we can drive to on a monthly or quarterly or what we need to do.
Okay. Okay, I'm sure, I'll have another question for you about that afterwards. But
Sure.
I'm good.
Melody, did I put you to sleep?
Oh, I have another one.
No, I'm
This-
good.
Maybe to help assure people, we have, an access point and we have the wireless thing that's for public. Could you help describe how that is separate than the other wireless? Yeah.
Sure. So, a lot of times I'll do this, I did it to my dentist the other day. A lot of times if you have an internal network and you have a guest network, a lot of times, companies will set those two up because every business owner knows you're gonna have an internal and a guest. A lot of times they will not VLAN the guest. So
They will not
VLAN,
what?
virtual LAN.
Oh,
So
okay.
basically, you're picking a port on the switch and you're saying, anything that comes through this port that goes to the firewall goes through that port, and it never, so the guest network cannot physically see inside the internal network. So a lot of them will set it up inappropriately. The other day I did it at my dentist. I saw all 17 of their servers. I saw all of the doc's computers, and I took some screenshots and sent it to the office manager and said, for the love of Pete, call me. This is not that hard to do. So, yeah. But yes, yours is bifurcated with VLAN.
Thank you.
You knew that answer. You just wanted
I
to know the
did.
answer.
No, I wanted everybody to hear it
Yeah,
because it's comforting to know that the two things are separate.
yeah. It's bad way to do business to not do those.
Yeah.
There's no use of having individual networks if they can see each other and discover each
Right.
other. So,
Yeah.
They're not so individual, are they?
Yeah.
They-
yeah.
Melody, did you have other questions for John?
No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay, Barbara? You're muted, but I assume you said you're good.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks for coming. No, I don't have any more questions. That's very helpful, John.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, really. Yeah, thank you. We appreciate
And
it.
obviously, my emails all have my cell phone number on them, and anybody's welcome to ask questions, because you're
Yeah,
gonna forget this in probably 12, 14 minutes tops. And then a question will pop up. Well, Peter won't, but a question will pop up in a couple of weeks. You're welcome to ask.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just, I think, the concern was to make sure that we have enough security where we were going to be doing remote, and we haven't done remote before.
Right.
So that,
Yeah.
that was to make sure we were.
There's a couple of other ways to do it, and we've done that for a couple of our nonprofits.
Mhm.
It's a little heavier lift, but we had one nonprofit with 15 to 20 people wanting to use their personal machines to come into work.
Right,
And we ended up doing it, but we had to set up an entire server, you know, with its own coverage and then specifically note with security groups what they could get to and what they needed to command. So
do we do two-step identification here?
that's the MFA, multi-factor authentication.
Okay, yeah. Okay, if we're all set, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for
And
keeping
Peter,
us
did you want me to
secure.
hang around so you can ask questions or?
I'll just shoot you an email.
Okay,
if that's
perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're close to the end, but
Thank you, John.
You have better things to do than hang around. here.
Thank you all.
all right, thank you, John.
Hey, John.
Yes.
Could you fix my computer?
Listen,
Oh, I
I'm
thought.
gonna, no, you keep that.
Whose wallet's right there?
I'm gonna want that.
I got one myself.
Okay, our next item, I move we open Lakes and Natural Resources Committee bylaw review.
I second that.
Okay. Pat,
We got on mute.
you're still muted.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay, I'm in Vermont. I apologize for not being able to be there today. But our committee put forward our basic thing was the new authorities and duties, which you have in front of you. And it's, again, as we talked in other meetings, we're tying it into the comprehensive plan, tying both the lakes and the natural resources of Belgrade were deemed to be mutually tied together. And we thought our committee would be much more productive in many ways if we expanded our scope. Basically, we can expand the participation of the people in the town who want to participate. Right now, if it's a lakes committee, most of the participants own lakefront property or have deeded access to it, which is really a small minority of the town residents. But many of them, like to hike, hunt, use the outdoors, and are concerned about, the forests in Belgrade, the ecology. So this puts us all in a place where we can really expand only our participation, but people interested in joining our committee. We're currently down a few members. We'd like to, recruit some more people in. So I think this is going to be a big plus for both Belgrade and that's what I'd be happy to talk about it and answer any questions.
Okay, well, I had looked through a couple of edits or corrections or questions. On your first page, you have number 1, authorities and duties, and number 3, terms, but you didn't make committee membership number 2. So you need to put a Roman number 2 in there and bold it so that it works. The only thing I thought just read funny to me, it's the very bottom, says except for the seasonal representative, committee members should be qualified electors and residents of the town. I had to think what a qualified elector was, but I wondered if it could,
Somebody who can vote.
I know, I wonder if we say committee members shall be full-time residents of the town, might be an easier way to word it, but.
We just lost him.
Oops.
He's in Vermont. It must be unreliable Wi-Fi.
Yeah, he's coming back.
In the
He's
mountains.
back trying to come in.
Just like
Uh,
the break.
Where'd you go? Oh, he's already.
Oh, where'd they go?
He's right there.
Partially here.
Yeah, he's up.
Oh, there he is
He's up
again.
there in participants again. There you go.
Hello.
There we go. He's back.
Do we have a copy of the guidelines for committee membership? We have, somewhere we have a page that says who can be on committees. I need to make sure this doesn't conflict.
I do not know where that might be.
For some reason, I'm thinking it says you have to be a resident of town.
Mary may.
I think we did that with the Lakes Committee that you had, they had the seasonal resident was an exception when that was,
But I don't know if our policy has been changed, is what I'm saying.
Oh,
It may
okay.
still be conflicting, so.
okay.
Dan,
Then
sorry.
Melanie,
Dan, I believe we changed it to reflect that a seasonal resident could be participatory on town committees, but couldn't vote.
Okay, we actually changed that policy.
I believe we did. And part of that was to allow the Board of Parks and Recreation also to possibly have a seasonal resident.
Barbara?
Yeah, it's the library also has a seasonal resident, but non-voting.
Okay.
But I don't know, I don't recall that it's a townwide policy or just committee by committee policy.
So
Well, at one point, we had a townwide policy. on
Do
who
do you
could
know,
be-
Mary?
it's just a committee by committee, and the library is by ordinance. They have, their membership is by ordinance. So it has just been committee by committee because they did allow for non-residents on the Lakes Committee.
So am I correct that on the Lakes Committee and now this new committee, the seasonal resident can vote?
So right now, I think it's my understanding, and Pat, correct me if I'm wrong, they do have a vote.
That's what I thought.
Is that right, Pat, that the seasonal representative has a vote equal to everybody else's?
He's
You
muted.
need to unmute.
You did. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, the seasonal resident can vote on committee business, not on town elections or anything outside the committee. Say, for
Okay.
example, we wanted to vote on something like that. It's just within the committee.
Okay, all right. So the other thing that I saw was, when you're talking about electing the chair, you have a chair can preside over meetings or report to the select board as necessary, cannot serve more than 2 full terms in succession. But you talk about electing them each year, so I think what you were driving at is that the chair cannot be the chair for more than 2 years at a time. Is that correct?
6 years at a time.
That, yes.
So you want
Two terms.
2 years, not 6 years.
Is it two 1-year terms? That's the way it is with the library board. The chair is a 1-year term that can be 2 years in a row. Then the chair has to take a year off.
Yeah, this term, we haven't changed the language in the terms from, was a lease committee. So it'd be, and we just got for what we already had for committee members. Because we still have the same amount of committee. We've got one coming out of the Belgrade Lakes Association, one member from Rob Salmon Lake, other one of the Melanski, who's a seasonal.
It's,
So Pat, just so you know, your audio is quite broken for us. It was hard
I couldn't understand what you were
Yeah.
saying.
to grasp.
yeah, it might be better to table this until we have better.
So we have better reception.
Well, not only that, I mean, when you're talking terms, you go over to the terms of the members, it's a 3-year term.
Right.
So you can't have terms defined 2 different ways.
Well, that's why I think it
That's
probably
why I
should say
assumed it was
no more than
3-year
2
terms.
can serve for no more than 2 years or 2
1-year. terms.
1-year terms, because each year they elect a new chair or can elect a new chair. So they're electing officers each year. And I think they're saying you can't be the chair more than 2 of those 1-year elections. It just needs to be worded differently, so it's not confusing.
Right.
So
Barbara has a hand up.
Barbara?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, that there's nothing wrong with having the board members themselves have 3-year terms, but the officers, in this case, it's just the chair, would be limited to fewer years, if it's a 1 year, 2 1-year terms in a row. That's the way it is with the library. And I kind of think that when this was originally set up, one of the things they looked at was the library ordinance. But I would suggest sending, I know that the committee was involved in the authorities and duties, and I think that that really sets out very well what the new purview would be for this committee, which is much broader than it was for the lakes. But I think the rest of it, which is a little more nuts and bolts, maybe should go back to the committee so they can take a look at it afresh and see if there are any more of these, you know, things that more details that they would want to take care of.
Right. You also had another point earlier when we were talking, Barbara, about the chair will call the other members to determine if a quorum can be achieved. That
Oh,
instead of calling, that you will contact, so you might you have to physically call them, you could email or do it some way. Change that word to contact. That's in the that first paragraph, the second page.
Right. But I think the committee itself might want to determine exactly what they mean by 2 full terms. Is it 2 1-year terms? Is it 3-year terms? Can somebody be a chair? You know, do you want someone as a chair for 6 years in a row? Or do you want to spread the responsibility around? But I would just send it back to the committee and let them take another look at it.
Yeah. Is that agreeable with everyone?
It is.
Everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so Pat, we gave you some input there, and we'll send this back to you to work out those pieces and clarify them, and then come back to us, and hopefully it'll be a quick approval at that point. Okay, and
there he is.
there he is. You're back again.
And
Were you able to hear that last statement?
Yes, are we all set with authorities and duties? Do you want any changes there? Paragraph, the first section?
Yeah, I didn't see any. Did anyone else?
No, I think that's very clearly stated.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's more the nuts and bolts after that, Pat, so I think that's good.
Thank you very much for the input. We'll get on it and get back to you
Okay.
soon.
And thank you for your valiant attempt to communicate with bad connections. We appreciate it.
I'm in the basement. I'm in the basement of a hotel trying to get. It keeps blinking off for me, so I apologize.
Have a good night, Pat.
Good night.
Okay,
Good luck.
good night. Okay. Okay. So, so next, under other business, I move we open the discussion about, approval for KV cog to work on. Now I don't have it in front of me, Lorna.
LD 2003.
That,
The planning board is looking for us to send a letter requesting assistance from Katie Cog. There's grant money available. And if you saw George's emails today, I think they had 3 members from Belgrade attend a Zoom meeting. And I believe there's only one other town who has submitted a letter of request to be put on that list for help, some grant funding. And it's a just a very simple template letter. I think I sent this out to you all to take a look at, but it's just really simple. It just says we're requesting assistance and to be put on the list for help from people.
so is there any discussion on this? Anyone have a question or a problem with it? If not, I move that we authorize Lorna to send a letter to KV Cog to put us on the list for that grant.
I second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor, Peter,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes,
Melanie,
Yes.
Barbara? Barbara?
Yes, sorry, sorry.
Okay, and I vote yes, that would be 5 of us, so Lorna, if you sign your name and send that off, I know you have it ready to go. Okay, is there any other business that's not?
Yeah,
before
I've
us?
got something.
Okay,
I tried to do it during public comment. You kept looking at me, but you kept going 5 minutes.
oh, I thought you were just kidding about
No,
public comment,
no.
I'm sorry,
Um,
they don't understand your humor, Dan.
Rec department. How often do they turn in the checks from the summer camp to be processed?
That I don't know. Mary probably knows that because I think they process through Trio and
Do they do it or do they come to Nick?
I would assume that they
Come to the,
process.
yeah, they come to the front office. It doesn't go through Nick, it comes to the front office and
How
usually,
often?
so his deposits, sometimes once a week, sometimes twice a week.
Well, the problem is I'm getting multiple complaints that they've had checks for 3 weeks plus that they're not deposited.
It could be. We,
So,
we
we
just
need-
processed something from June last week and we noticed it had a June date on it.
I know people that are having checks deposited that they just gave them and they're still waiting for 2 checks back to clear.
I'll reach out to them
So they
tomorrow.
need to be in every single week.
Now,
And
a question on that though, Dan, if it's the summer camp ones, do they put a check in at the beginning to hold a spot, but then Dan does not bring the check into the town to be cashed until they actually show up that week?
So that.
Well, the complaints I'm getting from the people that I've got them is the kids have been going all summer. And they're still waiting checks from the beginning of summer camp dated for those weeks to be cashed that haven't been cashed.
I
So,
gotcha.
May I say something? So we've tried to impress upon Dan that anytime he takes cash in, he needs to run it through his Trio system. And it should be coming to the town. He has gotten progressively better about bringing in those deposits and cash receipting them when he receives them. But we have noticed some checks that were older.
Well, like I said, the complaints I've got are people trying to balance their checkbook, that are waiting for these checks to clear and they're driving them crazy. And I can understand it. So weekly, if you're getting paid for a week, they should be in the end of that, at least by the end of that week.
Right,
And how are we making out with the pool down there?
Still, I believe I haven't seen the report come from the state yet, giving written approval to open.
it looks nice when you drive by.
I know he's had sunshine pools. They're going through all of the items, the processes for opening and maintaining. And they've been doing some water tests as well to get, I don't know. anything about
Well, we're at the
pools.
point, if they don't get it open next week, they might as well have it closed up for the season. Because this is ridiculous. I mean, another complaint I'm getting is that pool, from now on, that pool needs to be open. Memorial Day weekend, it needs to be ready to go.
Well, hopefully all the repairs will be done and approved by then, right? That should be the hope.
Because originally, it was supposed to be certain times that the public could swim in it and everything else.
Right,
and
yeah.
It's not happening. And we're gonna start getting some.
There, in his defense, there was a lot to do in order to bring it into compliance.
But that was last summer. That should have been all planned ahead and done before, that should have been scheduled and. You know, it's, I realize he's had a lot, but it's one of those things that should have been scheduled through. You know, our facilities maintenance, that had to be.
Okay,
I'll check with him on it and I'll,
Thanks.
what I
just
can
get back to us,
us.
Okay, any other business? Okay. I move to open the warrants. Second. Okay, So I move we pay payroll warrant number 88 in the amount of $31,652.50.
Second,
Mary has her hand up again, so.
Who has their hand up?
See, there's.
Oh, Mary, I'm sorry. Mary?
No, I
No,
don't have a hand up.
That's a little icon from the computer.
Does that mean?
Yeah,
Oh, that's you, sorry, I'm sorry, I
Oh,
apologize.
okay,
I just said, why isn't the hand yellow?
It was my mouse.
Yeah.
okay. So it's been moved and second on payroll 88. Any discussion? Peter,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Melanie?
yes,
Yes,
I vote yes, okay. Next, I move we pay BMB warrant number 89 in the amount of $10,561.34.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, Peter,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Melanie,
yes,
Barbara?
yes,
I vote yes, that's 5-4.
The next,
I'm sorry, yes.
I have a comment for AP warrant 90. You have a duplicate payment, which is a GA case for cremation.
I saw that.
Yeah, $1,074. So your actual amount of the warrant, excluding that duplicate payment, we'll get rid of the check, is 657,275.88.
Okay, thank you. I looked at that and said, how did we get two cremations for the same amount? So, okay, I move we pay AP warrant number 90 in the amount of $657,275.88.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the warrant, from anyone as they look through it? My question was the cremation, so that answers my question.
the only thing, my warrant preview doesn't have a warrant number on it. Does the hard copy have one?
It should be AP warrant 90, and what I have here is the warrant preview as well, Melanie.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't see warrant
The pre-
number on it.
Yeah, it doesn't have it.
There's no
No, it
warrant.
says 8/2 of 2023.
Right.
But the warrant we signed over there, I believe that's the number.
Yeah.
Yes, the signature page does have the correct number, Melanie.
Okay,
It's a signature page, got the correct.
No.
Good point.
Good point.
Yeah, we'll just I'll cross that out and put the correct amount in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
Why don't you do it, Carol, once we signed it?
yeah.
Yeah, good point, Dan.
92, 91, 90. Get there in a minute. There's 90, so that's.
Mower deck. What was the scoop on that?
We ordered a new mower deck and we have another one that's down and just ordered $500, I believe, in parts to get that back up and running. So we've had two
This is,
older.
this is for
mowers.
one of the zero turns,
Yeah. I know.
$3,800. for a
Yeah,
mower deck.
well, for a new mower, it's what, 20,000?
1,000 for the land.
Yeah, that was actually a really good price. I
Sarah,
know,
would you look at these?
I know.
So in the first one we bought was $7,000, $29,000, so here in 20,000, now it's like.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Anything commercial that. But they run every day. It's about, they run every week in the summer.
Mhm.
It's a long, that's more.
Barbara, did you have any questions? No? Melanie, any questions for you?
No.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Peter, all in favor, Peter,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes,
Melanie,
Yes,
Barbara?
Yes.
I vote yes, so that's 5-0. Okay, now I move we approve payroll warrant number 91 in the amount of $27,356.53.
I second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, Peter,
Yes.
Dan,
yes,
Melanie,
yes,
Barbara?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so 5 votes for. Next, I move we approve payroll warrant number 92 in the amount of $1,634.48.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, Peter,
Yes.
Dan,
yes,
Melanie,
yes,
Barbara?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so it's 5-0. And the last one, I move we pay BMV warrant payroll state payables 93. In the amount of $23,374.12.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, Peter,
Yes.
Dan,
yes,
Melanie,
yes,
Barbara?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So that takes us through the warrant articles.
May I ask a question?
You may.
At this time, are these types of payments that we're doing, are they similar? With respect to how we're going like this every year, and are we on track with our budget?
We are on track, and I had run the revenue figures, so I'll send that report out to everyone, so you can have a look at that as well. We can run another expense report so that you can see those updated.
See it through July, yeah.
Push that up.
Yeah.
Are we getting, is the tax dollars coming in, so we are gonna have to touch it, Dan?
Slowly, but yeah,
You think we're gonna be able to not have to get into that? Dan?
I don't know that yet.
Okay. Well, that's being on budget, man, that's always
Yeah.
the whole,
yeah, but at least we're not drawing it all out what we used to.
right.
You know, if you have to draw it a little bit here.
I'm hoping that you don't have to bill on any of that, hoping the tax dollars that's coming in
Yeah.
enough to take care of.
Have we ever looked at giving everyone like a 1% discount if they pay in
You know, but you can-
July or-
I think you can do that.
But you know what you do? My comment on that, when you offer a discount, it's usually those people who do have the funds to pay their taxes in full upfront
Mhm.
are able to do that, so you're giving them a discount. And you do a disservice to the people that don't have the
that aren't in
money
that position, okay,
and
Yeah.
you have to wait. And then you also have to make it up on the other end because you have a budget to meet. And when you
Right.
start giving discounts,
Yeah.
you've got to make up that money somewhere
somewhere
else.
else. Yeah.
So you're not really making out ahead.
I didn't think we could give discounts as a municipality.
You can. We used to in New Sharon.
Yeah,
And we tried to get it changed for a few years and voters wouldn't hear of it. Until at one town meeting, one gentleman, it finally clicked what we were saying. And he stood up and so he spoke about it. And everyone listened, and so they all voted no more discount.
no more discounts. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's no more
Yes, I was
discount.
gonna say, the only way,
Yeah.
the opposite way to that is you build your budget a little bit to take care of that, so you don't pay the tan.
So you're not
Yeah.
really giving a discount
Yeah,
because you still have a budget.
right,
Mhm.
yeah, okay.
Hmm.
Just a random thought that went flying through my head. But maybe, would it be worth sending something out to say, if anyone, if you pay your taxes early, we may not have to get into the tan? Just a notice out to folks to encourage them.
maybe on the social media, I wouldn't send the email.
No.
Oh, no, not a mail, I'm just saying, yeah, okay. All right, that takes us to the town manager report.
And I sent that out to all of you, so not sure if there are any questions. I also included a news article about LD 290, the property tax stabilization, which they've repealed. And we've had a ton of questions on that here.
Yeah.
And I also included, because I added in my report that I had asked Corey if there were a way to offer our cemetery map and search tools online for the public. And he wasn't sure, so he did contact Sims, and they do actually offer that as an option. It is a $1,500 setup fee, and then it is $800 a year hosting fee. There is, I believe he spoke with the cemetery folks or the committee, and I believe you all agreed that that would be a really great option and service for the public.
You put samples where they could, the board could go on. and look
I
at-
did send out, yep, I sent out the whole thing that Sims gave us. I included that. So there is money available in the cemetery
There's money
budget
available.
to do this. I think it's a really great idea. It's very helpful. You can, I think you can type in a name. You can do it on a mobile device too,
Yeah.
and it will actually take you.
You can,
To
To the
be able to
spot.
find them,
Yeah.
yeah.
and then the other thing, if you're at the cemetery, if they said provide signs, I think it's 3 signs, don't.
Yeah,
read that
I'm
quote.
not sure.
But they provide signs, you put it to cemetery, and it has the little barcode thing, and you go up, you put your phone to it, and it automatically brings up the.
Oh, the
site.
QR code thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, brings
Okay.
up the site. Just, I think it would save a lot of time, on the sexton. I mean, I can't prove it, but I know a lot of the phone calls that the sexton gets to, where's so-and-so, or how can I find so-and-so, and, you know, it's, that, you know, I think it can save a lot of time that way. And then it kind of gives you, people on a weekend opportunity to be able to find, family member or a
yeah.
friend or a loved one or whatever, and, I think it'd be quite useful. I mean, I know, that sample, I think it's Virginia or Pennsylvania or one of the, I can't remember which state it was in, but it was real neat to go on and look
It
at it.
really is
Yeah,
incredibly useful.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
Peter?
I've seen an application like this for veterans cemeteries
Oh, yeah.
and thought it was quite helpful.
Mhm.
Because sometimes they're not people aren't as familiar necessarily at a cemetery like that. So I think it's a great idea for the town to consider this as well. So I'm in favor of it. Are there other towns nearby that have done it? Because it would be,
I do not know of it
I think
off the top
Gus-
of my head.
The may have it. Augusta has something that's online that you can look. I'm not sure if it's the
I'm
same.
not 100% sure, but I think we're one of the few towns in the state of Maine that has the SIM program, I think.
Yeah.
okay,
Thing is, if we're gonna start doing that, upfront cost and more money every year to maintain it, we're gonna have to go up on burials and stuff again. You're gonna have to increase your prices to cover the cost.
Mhm. Is this something we want to act on tonight? Or just something we want to,
I think about it a lot.
okay, so why don't we take this information, think about it, we can come back to it maybe next week or next meeting?
Well, that,
Or-
I think the cemetery committee ought to talk about it. and think about
Maybe
what
I
they
have
have to do to
cemetery
increase.
committee come to the board meeting,
Right,
Because the cemetery committee has already discussed it, right?
just on the phone, we haven't had. a phone.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you'd had a meeting, okay.
This phone.
So,
because again, I think they're gonna have to decide if they want that increase in rates to
Yeah.
cover it and
Right.
everything else, so
yeah,
it should come from them.
okay,
so I have a question for Bruce, if that's okay?
yes,
So for that cemetery committee, for me, it would be helpful if there would be some, estimate of how they would realize the savings on their end in terms of time, because their time is money, right? And I just want to make sure we're talking about it in that way, because we're gonna have an expense on one end, like Dan's saying.
Right.
Where are we saving somewhere else? So just to have a full picture view.
Maybe Lorna could get that to Cory so he can check with. Try to track his.
Okay. Yeah, so if it's not ready for next meeting, we can do it in September, whatever.
Yeah, I don't,
When do you meet again?
we got a meeting, I can't remember which day, we got one in August, I just gave them
Yeah,
which day.
so it may not even be ready for next.
I'd say, yeah, September, and I'd say this is something that you'd wanna try to get on, if you guys approve it, try to get it online for, that should, next year.
Needs to go into
Budget.
budget.
Yeah.
Into budget meeting,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
That's fine, I'm just wondering, what that about.
Okay. Anything else that we have? Anything else they'll tell me? Oh, Melanie, I'm sorry, you have your hand up.
I do.
You do?
One thing that I noticed we had tabled to tonight's meeting that we didn't take up were the bid proposals for the dry hydrants. So I'm wondering if we want to just touch base with Dan McKenzie and see where they were at with their review of those. To see if that's something we want to put on the next meeting's agenda.
Okay,
I just talked to him this one, and didn't even think to ask him about it.
Sorry,
And
I'm not-
ask him if you would, Lorna, if they vetted both companies and if they think that they need 3 dry hydrants total. If they think that they would, if the one that's lower, if they could do all 3 of them for essentially the price of one, is that something that he wants to try to put forward?
The other thing, I'm having a brain cramp, show my age. I think it was last meeting. We asked for postcards or something to be sent out.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what it was for now.
oh, it was for,
4-day week.
4-day.
Four-day week, and I didn't,
And I actually
I was trying to
had-
look through the minutes,
I had
from
some
and I don't
suggestions,
remember,
and then I
and I don't
took it
remember
back
even seeing
because I
the
got-
minutes from last week, so.
No,
We
it
buried
was,
the brothers
I think it was
together, so I
the
didn't-
meeting.
I got-
for-
I got otherwise.
It was the meeting.
Have we done anything?
Yes.
We had a
yes.
draft and then I had a suggestion on it and then I got, so,
Okay, I just,
yeah,
I remember we did it, and it's like, I haven't seen any.
Yeah, we
postcard
actually
companies.
do have a draft and it's gone between all 3 of us, and I think you had something, but.
yeah,
we
I did, and then
haven't
I.
gone over it yet.
Okay.
The other thing, and I probably should have said this in public comment, but, this weekend, we did inter my brother's remains, and I have to say that Corey and Kevin could not have been nicer, done a more efficient job. We weren't quite sure what to do, and we ended up having a sort of a gathering with about 35 of us there. They made sure the cemetery looked perfect. They had just everything in space where you'd want it to be, and it was just really, really well done. So I just would like to publicly say that and to let Lorna know as their supervisor that they did a really, really fine job. So,
Thank you.
so,
Thanks for noting that. I'm sorry for your loss, that's for sure.
yeah, but, it was nice to come, and I actually said to my sister-in-law, because the vault was there and we were actually going to be, putting dirt on the vault, people that chose to do that. And Corey had made a square about the size of the vault and covered it with the fake grass so that when you came to the cemetery, it was covered. And I said to Lynn, did she want us to leave it? She said, no, you can take it away. But it was just nice to be able to have her to have the choice of, do I want it there or do I want it open? It was just really, it could not have been a better presentation, a better job. So,
Oh, that's.
For what that's worth.
Thank you.
so. Anything else, the town manager's report?
I just got one thing. I want to thank the roadside being mowed.
Oh,
Great. And one other thing, if Lana could contact DOT on the Wings Mill intersection for trimming. Get the trimming back, because the visibility coming off Wings Mills Road. Because of bushes you can't see, especially to the south.
okay.
Actually, I want to make a note about missing sign. We had to call them back a few months ago. We were complaining about it over on the West Road. There used to be a deer crossing sign and then the speed limit sign. Right after you turn on the West Road, the speed limit sign tips sideways. Well, that sign's still there and it's still tipped sideways, but now there's a post there, no deer crossing sign.
Well, the deer came and got it.
Could be. Well, the deer crossing sign blocked the speed limit sign.
Right.
And we had wondered if maybe when the house got built there, the guy didn't like the sign and moved the speed limit sign and just stuck it in the ground. That's why it's tilted. So we need to find if that's where it's supposed to be placed and get those straightened back up and then decide if we're gonna replace that deer crossing sign.
That was the weeks.
Okay,
No, West Road.
Oh, sorry.
okay.
Yeah, just after you turn off.
All right, thank you, Bruce.
So you all feel better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Okay, so,
May we take a short?
I think we
May
should
we-
take a
Please,
3.5 minute break.
let us do that.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to move that we exit our regular select board meeting and enter into an executive session at 8:25.
Second.
Okay. I guess we should close the door, yeah.
And do we vote or?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I guess we have to vote. Peter,
Yes.
Yes.
Dan, Melanie,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes,
okay. So we'll pause the recording and,
no, we're not out of executives. We're not out of,
That's all right. We can vote to come out. There's no big deal now. We're not talking about anything.
okay.
okay.
So I'll, Peter,
Yes,
Dan,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
okay.
and I'll open up the.
Should we re-enter the select board meeting?
Second.
All in favor of going back into regular session, Peter,
Yes,
Dan,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
Barbara's hand is up and I say yes.
well,
Okay, is there anything else to come before the board?
Times of 9:26 and 9:27, call it.
I move we adjourn to the evening.
Second.
Second,
Very-
gee, we had 4 seconds for that.
we're all in favor.
All right, thank you folks very much.
Okay. Good night. Thank you, Carol.
Good
Yeah,
night.
Feel better?
yeah, feel better, both of
Feel
you.
better, Mel.
Thanks.
I feel better than I sound.
Good night.
Right.
That's